Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another day in Cybersecurity Awareness Month. We are very happy today to introduce to you Heather Mahalik, who is from the SANS Institute, and HSToday is continuing our work to raise awareness around cybersecurity as we do every year. So I'm really pleased to have Heather join us. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be
Yes,
here.
we're very excited. So as our loyal readers know, every year during October, it is Cybersecurity Awareness Month, an awareness month that is pretty much heralded by the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, within the Department of Homeland Security. And what the month tries to do is educate and help people understand the role they play in securing cyber for their enterprise, for their families, frankly, for the country. So today, what we wanted to talk about a little bit was just some of the things that people and their families need to be aware of to be cyber secure, and that it's really not that hard. So kind of taking a moment to demystify some of the words that we hear every day, the reasons we need to care about these things, and really how it's become a very, I mean, I hate to say a dispersed battlefield, but cyber is truly a battlefield that each one of us plays a role in, whether we like it or not. So we can unwittingly become the weak link in letting someone into our bank accounts, but they can do much more damage than just stealing your personal money. They can get into things and you can be that weak link, but with some just simple cyber hygiene tips, you can stop that. You can protect your kids, you can protect your family, and that's what Heather's here to talk to us about. So thank you again for joining us, Heather. And I just wanted to start with something really easy, and kind of what are the most common types of cyber attacks that individuals and families should be worrying about?
That's a fantastic question. And honestly, it could be all over the spectrum, depending on what you consider an attack. So it could be as invasive as a huge ransomware attack. But it's usually not even that. It's someone in your family clicks on something they shouldn't. Someone in your family loses all their data. And this is where we feel attacked if we lose everything that's on our phone. So think about this. If my phone breaks, and this happens often, or a grandparent passes and you want pictures from these devices, if there are no backups, you can't get the password, you can't get into it, that could technically be an attack on the family because you're lacking the data you need. But often someone will get a text message or an email that they click on that then leads down that horrible path of what just happened? How does someone have all my information? And it's sometimes impossible to fully recover from that without recreating yourself completely with new accounts, new cloud accounts, and all those things. But we can't do that. We're creatures of habit. You know, we need access to our information that's always been there. So starting from scratch is really scary at times.
Absolutely. As you're a senior instructor at the SANS Institute, correct?
I actually just got promoted. I am now faculty fellow.
Ooh,
So
congratulations.
I've reached the top. It's
glad
amazing.
we got to announce that here. You heard it here at HSToday first. Congratulations on that. I know that you've been working a lot to discuss the steps families need to take. So I guess when people think about, people attacking in your home, we hear words bot, honeypot, all kinds of different things. What is a bot and why should people worry about them, or what do they need to worry about them?
So there are actually bots have a bad reputation, but there are also good bots too that kind of scour the internet and crawl through the internet and looking through things in networks. But a bot is essentially that does something repeatedly instead of a human doing it. A human does not have to kick it off. It will just go through and constantly ping and look for your passwords or troll social media. It's going to essentially look for vulnerabilities or gaps. So essentially it's looking for the weakest link in the chain, and it's consistent. So it's not a hacker sitting behind a keyboard saying, oh, I'm going to get Christina today. No, the bot is just going on your networks and looking for that weakest link.
And is it looking on behalf of someone or something?
It definitely could be. These tasks could be injected and implemented by an attacker. It could be that it just came from somewhere else. And think of like a true infection or a virus, or you get it from someone else and it keeps spreading. During COVID, that's probably a terrible example, but we all live in this world. So we get it. Sometimes you have no idea how it even happened. And I think a big mistake that a lot of us make is assuming that we are not targetable. We are not important enough to be hacked or targeted. And I talked about that at RSA a few years ago. I have always joked, like, who wants my information? Maybe nobody, but maybe one person that is persistently going to try to get access to it. So this is where bots could be a cause. You may not know how it got there. You may not know what it does, but they're essentially like search engines, social media. They have sole purposes, really. There's not one bot that's going to do it all. And then think about too, here's a good example for anyone that they're like, what is she talking about right now? Think about when you log into something and you have to check that box or choose the bicycles, choose the traffic lights, and you check the box saying, I'm really not a bot. Because a bot's not going to know what to do in that situation. They're not humanized enough to do that. They're just going through and trying to brute force their way through things.
I don't know if they would make us pick the traffic lights 3 times, but okay. I know the 2-factor authentication can be very annoying at times. So people are like, oh, that's a tough one. But what I'd like to do is just continue on kind of with some of the things we need to worry about. And then the latter part of the interview, just talk a little bit more about what people can do. So I guess with that, the next question I have for you is, what is a honeypot?
Ooh, so I actually have leveraged honeypots a lot in my work with mobile devices specifically. A honeypot is what you want to attract everything to. So you want it to be as open as possible so that everything bad is going to be attracted to it. And then you could take a look at it. So I know we had government people traveling to different countries of interest. So we're like, take a honeypot phone for let's see what the infection platforms look like. How are they trying to get in? What kind of things can we attract to it? So it's a cool situation, especially in DFIR, which is what I do, the digital forensics incident response. This is probably the most offensive thing I've ever had my hands in, which is fun because usually we're reactive, we're defensive, something bad happens, you didn't prepare, and then we're the janitors that come in and try to clean it all up and make it look normal for you again.
Well, that's exactly this month. Most of our months are led by luminaries in cyber. And we had Antonio Villafana, who is the former CIO at the WMD office at DHS, lead our efforts this year. And that's one of the things he called for, is a little bit more offense. So we're not constantly on defense and constantly just worrying about the most basic things, that we take it up a level this year. So we're hoping that as we do every year, we call out to our readers and our supporters and say, submit your pieces, help us collaborate better, help us protect the country, but also take us to the next level. So I love hearing you say that. That's very, very interesting. So for families, what do you identify as really the main ways that cyber thieves steal these days?
So it depends on the age range. Like if we're looking at, let's start with like my dad. My biggest concern with him are all of his passwords, lack of 2-factor authentication, and someone getting access to like his retirement accounts and his checking account. And he doesn't understand that. So he thinks it's so complex that he has to click a button on his phone and enter a code. And I'm trying to tell him why this is so important. So I think educating your parents at that level, he doesn't want to do it. So I was like, then don't do any banking online ever, Dad. You have to drive to the bank. Like that's what you now physically have to do if you don't want to listen this way. And then from the opposite perspective, I have a 4-year-old. And if she had permission, she would buy the world on Amazon. She would buy everything from iTunes. Like she's on that app store trying to get things. But you also have to think about this. Like I am a parent iCloud account. She's a child. So if she clicks on something, maybe she's playing Roblox, and someone sends her a link and she clicks on it, can that actually land in my iCloud? And then if they land on my iCloud, oh my gosh, It's going to get to all of my things, my Mac, my PC, my devices, my financial information. So there's vulnerabilities everywhere. So I try to educate them. Don't click on any links. Don't ask for everything. They have to ask for permission to download everything, to do everything. And I give them a code, but they're smart. Kids are so smart. And that's where you have to be so tricky. And I learned a lot when I was doing Securing the Family. I talked to Lance Fissner's 17-year-old son. And he was like, oh, with Chromebooks, we found a way that we could do this. Or we realize if our friends don't have, like if their parents block their devices with like a screen time, they would get a burner phone and use it. It blows my mind what people will do to get beyond it. But simple things like securing your Wi-Fi, changing the password so it's not admin and password 123. Like there are so many simple things you could do to just protect things a little bit more. But at age levels, I think there are drastic different concerns.
I think we've all had the struggle with trying to teach our parents technology and have walked away many times only to come back and be like, should we try this again? So tremendous, I think patience really important as well.
For sure.
So you said something very important, and I think people hear this all the time and they roll their eyes, but why are passwords so important?
Oh, passwords are so important. And you know what? I just went through this situation and I understand now why people are like, oh, I hate having different passwords. So I just upgraded my iPhone. And that means I had to log into everything again. I needed all the two-factor authentication scanning codes again. But the fact that I don't have the same password repeatedly haunted me a little bit. But I have LastPass, and there's not one password manager that I recommend over another. I just have LastPass. So it was easy. I actually got onto my computer. I entered my very secure master password, and then I just searched for all the things I needed to log into, and it gave me my passwords. So I can have unique ones for every single thing. And is it annoying? Yes. But what if my password is my dog's name and I don't know, like a hashtag or a pound symbol or something? You get it once, now you're getting into everything. And where we are bad, if you work at Homeland Security, you are reminded every 90 days to change your password. And it can't be a password that you used to have. But we don't do this on our personal information. And that's a problem. Like I can honestly say, I don't think my bank has ever said, Heather, it's now time to reset your password. You've had this for 9 years. They don't care. They just want you to bank with them. So it's up to us. And I like to do kind of the security check of when my workplace reminds me it's time to change your password. It's kind of time to change them on all the things because you need a good refresh.
That's very good advice. My bank actually does make me change my password. So
that's good.
I'm happy to, and it's a credit union. So there you go. Good on my credit union. So we've talked a little bit about kind of the older folks, and we've talked about your child, but what about all the middle-aged children on Facebook? Do they have to worry about anything?
Yeah, geez. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all these things. And I noticed Twitter changed something because now I'm getting notifications that I never have gotten before. But what I like to do periodically, more so than when someone flares up and says, oh my gosh, Facebook changed its privacy settings, go into your settings and take a look. I go in and I make sure first thing that multi-factor or two-factor authentication is set. I like to do that. Then I go in and I look at who can see my profile, what kind of security settings do I have, and what is being shared. And what's really scary is if you look at your Facebook app, there was a setting in there for a while that I didn't even know about. Someone asked me, I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't believe this is there. But it was like under settings and privacy. I'm trying to think where it was, but you can see device requests, which other devices are trying to log in as you, your settings, the recent ad activity. It'll tell you that, hey, these are your recent ads, ones that are saved. If it's scanning for Wi-Fi, which is so strange. If you think about this, like right now it's scanning for 2 Wi-Fis nearby me. So location information, even if you're not checking in on Facebook, Facebook knows where you are. So there's all these things to just be aware. You can turn them off, but most of us don't. We don't take the time to go in and say, I don't know if I want all this stuff here, if I want things in my news feed, if I want off, this is what it is. And I want people to do this. Go into your Facebook settings and look at off Facebook activity. And it's when you're off Facebook, it'll scan and see what you've been doing in your other apps on your mobile device. It's crazy. So that's something that you can say, clear the history, manage it, say, I don't want it there anymore. And I try to do that frequently. So just take control. Don't be afraid of the settings. Be curious. If something doesn't seem right or seem shady, it probably is, and you should turn it off.
That's great advice. And I hope everyone that's watching this does go in and do that. Can you tell us a little bit more about TikTok and the controversy and everything going on with TikTok? Because my daughter's after me constantly to download TikTok. I haven't done it. I do want to watch the videos. It's a terrible thing.
It is, but I love it. I'm not going to lie. I had a test device and I was creating a CTF, a capture the flag for work, and I had TikTok on it. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is wonderful. So I actually do have TikTok on my real phone now. I am not a poster, really. Like, I think I have like 3 TikToks that I've ever posted that I just mostly watch. But it's honestly about the same as the others. If you think about it, there's no more of a lack of security in TikTok from what I've seen forensically than you would see in Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, like LinkedIn. Think about all the breaches and stuff that have happened to LinkedIn. LinkedIn is probably more susceptible at times than TikTok because it has more of our where we've worked, where we live, who we work with, environments we've been in, things we're invited to, specific groups. So you're more targeted, I would say, in something like that than watching ridiculous challenges on TikTok.
So they're not genetically typing my cat through TikTok.
Yeah, well, they are. This is what's weird. If you look at what TikToks you would get versus what I get versus what some of my friends get, and actually mine appall me. I'm like, what kind of person does it think I am that I'm getting these and you're getting all these motivational quotes? And I don't get
the AI nowadays is truly amazing, and how it follows you from site to site. And like, I'm like, I already bought that. Why are you following me to every site I go to?
But that's how I do all my shopping. If you think about it, I'm like, oh yeah, I want this. It's ridiculous.
It is.
Like, thank you for recommending that. I do need that in my life.
Yes, one peek at something and all of a sudden it's following you for the rest of time. Yep. So as all of this is happening, you know, you can make the choice to drive to the bank and do all those things and shut yourself off. But, you know, rational people most likely will not do that, want to stay protected. And the big thing that we hear about all the time, both within the public and private sector, is a lot about phishing and ransomware. Can you talk to us a little bit more about that? Kind of give us what the definitions are and then how you can kind of protect yourself?
Yeah, so I want to mention 2 things with phishing. There's phishing, which is more of a targeted email and you click on a link. And then there's smishing, where you get an SMS message or an iMessage, something that comes through to your phone and you click on that link. Now the smishing, I feel like, are really bad generally. Like, mine are crazy, but some are pretty crafty. Like, your FedEx package couldn't be delivered, but you look at it, it's not a link from FedEx. Everyone, I think, gets that one now. Or burn 30 pounds in 5 days, which is absurd. And no one's going to be able to do that, but people will click on the link.
What?
Yes.
I want that link.
But when we look at phishing and ransomware, these messages are very much crafted for the person they are targeting. They want a ransom on something for a reason. And I run a lunch show called Life Has No Control, Alt Delete. And on it, I had Kevin Ripa, who also teaches for SANS Institute, and he talked on ransomware. And I made the joke as the host, like, there's no way I would fall victim of a ransom attack. And he's like, yes, you would. And I'm like, no way, no way. You could never get me to click on it. And he's like, yes, you would. And this is a great example. And he came up with it like off the top of his head. Like, we didn't have any script. So he had no idea I was going to say that. And he's like, I would send you a message saying that your son's school had an active shooter in it, and click on this link to figure out where to pick up your child. He's like, you would never research it. You would click that link. And he is 1,000,000% right. And then he's also correct, because when I clicked on the link and nothing happened, which is really when the ransomware is being downloaded onto your system, I would probably panic and forget that I even clicked on that, and then call the school or try to go get my son. And it would all be done by the time I got back. So it's that crafted. They know what they want and what they're up against. And then this is where people are like, paying the ransom is terrorism, or you're feeding this, but the ticker keeps going.
Well, and we learned that once everything is ransom, you need your data back. Like you said,
Mhm.
you need it back. So if you're unfortunate enough to fall into something like that, it's a dead end. And
Yes.
uh, actually at HS Today, one of our assistants got sucked into, it wasn't a ransomware attack. It was one of the buy some gift certificates. The email came from me,
Yep.
but it was .ru. I mean, it was the Russians. There were a lot of things that were red flags. They used the wrong name for
Oh
her.
my gosh.
They, all of these things, but she did it. She
Yeah.
bought gift certificates. She sent them. Then she emailed me and said, did you get the gift certificates? I'm like, what are you talking about? And we learned that she was, targeted and a very new employee. And it was really, really unfortunate. But what we learned is no one has jurisdiction and
Yeah.
no one is going to do
Ooh.
anything about it. We called
Yeah.
FBI, we called the local law enforcement, we called everyone we knew. Now, we did report it to the FBI as an attack, but she will not get her money back. And really, that's a true gap in our laws and our ability to combat them because there's nothing to stop them. They made $1,600 off of her that day, and
Yeah.
who knows how many others. So really, really unfortunate. But so with a story like that, I mean, we noticed that it was, a .ru email. So it obviously was not me, but it did use my name. And then they also called her by the wrong name. What are some of the other red flags that are in emails that you can just make people aware of?
Usually the link does not make sense. So you should always hover above the link. And most people know that, but some people don't. So like right now I have IT tickets open over here. And when I hover above it, it is actually what I see. Now, sometimes you will get shortened links and that's okay. Just make sure it's where you expect to be going. Look at how punctuation is used. That's usually a big one where the punctuation just isn't right or the dollar signs in a wrong spot. How the person's title usually is, but sometimes they're really difficult to find. What you shouldn't do is like just delete it and get rid of it. If you have an IT department, which most do, you should forward it to the IT department or better yet, screenshot it so someone in IT doesn't accidentally click on it. You could take a screenshot and send it and then just flag it in your directory, especially if you're seeing the same things over and over, because you will see persistence. If someone really wants to get in, they are going to try many different ways to get someone, which sadly is like the insider risk. The insider risk, this is the person that doesn't intend to do harm in your organization, but they just aren't educated on how to protect themselves and not click the link.
Yeah, it's kind of an epidemic. I know they did even a study on one of the federal agencies offering Redskins tickets, and an ungodly number of people clicked on it. So it was kind of lesson du jour.
Mm-hmm.
Don't click on the links, even
Wow.
even if it's possible Redskins tickets. It's too good
Yep.
to be true. I guess that's the old saying. If it's too good to be true, it most likely is. So
That's like
yeah.
if Apple offers you something for free, you know it's not true. Delete it immediately.
Ooh, harsh.
Mm-hmm.
HS Today has no no association with what she just said about Apple. So I guess I really want to thank you for your time, and hopefully this has really helped people understand and feel more comfortable with going into their settings, with just being more aware and vigilant of what's coming into their inbox and how it can damage them and their families. I'm going to end with a weird question, but just answer this for us. Why should we care?
Because your data is worthy. It really is. And honestly, everyone says hindsight is 2020. When it happens to you, it's going to be the worst feeling. So learn how to protect yourself, back up your information, because the backups are important. What if you truly do get ransomware that you don't want to pay? There has to be a way out of it otherwise. So use the tip sheets if you have access to them from the SANS site that I did. They are written to everyone's level that can read, should be able to understand, okay, I need to click on these things. These are the things I should do. Even things like Alexa and Google Home and all these things we have, talking about security, all these things, because it is very important. You are important enough to be attacked.
That's an incredibly important statement. So thank you again, everyone out there. You are important enough to be attacked, which is probably not how you want to be important. But I really want to thank you, Heather, for joining us during Cybersecurity Awareness Month. I encourage everyone out there to not only share this video, but also go to hstoday.us into our cyber section and read more of what experts and practitioners are writing about and talking about related to cybersecurity. There's a lot going on. It is manageable, and we have faith that all of us will come together and share with each other and learn about how to protect our families and ourselves. And of course, with that, our enterprises as well, because if you're a weak link at home, you can be a weak link at work, and that can also be a disaster. So we'll talk about that later in the month. But for now, thank you, Heather. Thank you for working with the SANS Institute to protect our families and certainly to train others to protect families and enterprises, and have a terrific month.
Thank you. You too. Thanks for having me.
For all your work.